Welcome to the Chaos Sector. We return to the Matrix. A criminal always has a support system, you know? Someone can get away with faking a hate crime and have a conviction overturned. Because the judge is just as corrupt and immoral as they are. Jussie Smollett's conviction was overturned recently, and it basically shows how the left enable these crimes, and then even work so hard to prevent the person from being sentenced for the crimes they committed. Now Smollett staged a hate crime, which was a hoax, right? No outrage from the left, in him basically making a mockery of actual racial hate crimes, also making a mockery of hate and hate crimes against the LGBTQ community. Oh no, it's not offensive. It's not homophobic because he's a homosexual, and it's definitely not racist because he's a man of color. But what exactly is it then? Well, he made a false police report. That's the first crime. He claimed that he was a victim of a racial hate crime. That's the second crime, and the intention behind that plot was to incite political violence, creating a false claim against Trump supporters of that political violence, which is another crime. Yet he only served 6 days out of his 150-day sentence, or 5 months. Got the star treatment as all Hollywood celebrities. Yep. This is all a bunch of theater, the hoax itself, and then the sentencing was also a hoax, all to provoke racial tension in society. Once again, because Trump was elected president, the left knew the illusion of racism was starting to crumble before their eyes. So they conjured up some incident in attempts to refuel that fire. The Charlottesville hoax, the George Floyd hoax, the Ahmaud Arbery hoax, which we broke down in the past, the Kyle Rittenhouse hoax, all fueled by racial tension. If you notice, haven't had much of this in old Joe's administration, right? Because Democrats use racism to gain political power and influence in society. And once they get it, everything seems so peaceful when it comes to race relations, you see. In fact, Smollett, in an interview with Robin Roberts, he actually admitted he was a fierce opposition to Trump's presidency. So obviously that hoax was to fuel racial tension and possibly start a race war, right? Yet he gets away with it, not only because he's a celebrity, but he's a celebrity on the left side of the equation. Rules for thee, not for me, I see. The malicious intent behind the hoax is what the courts should have focused on, as Smollett undermined and manipulated law enforcement, manipulated the American people, and created racial and political division as a result. And when you also factor in the fake homophobic attacks as well, Smollett should be considered a menace to society, right? Oh no, he's too delicate to be that dangerous. Let's review the recent verdict.
Yeah, this guy is a piece of shit. Sorry for my profanity, but this is the type of behavior that we need to eradicate society of. He's a piece of shit, but the entire shit pile was coming from the Democratic Party. Quote, Jussie Smollett's conviction for false hate crime claim is overturned. The Illinois Supreme Court ruled that he should have not been prosecuted a second time, after the charges against him had been dismissed with a negotiated agreement. Okay, here's the problem initially. The judge shouldn't have negotiated anything the first time. He should have served his time just like anyone else who committed such a crime. In fact, he should have been charged with several felonies and served some prison time. Because as I mentioned, the intentions behind this were not just mere false police reports. They weren't just false hate crime claims. He should have also been charged with conspiracy, as he literally created a scenario where Trump supporters attacked him, in which we can also include the political affiliation Smollett had as to why he was attacked in that scenario. If someone hires someone else to carry out a crime, this is a conspiracy. If that someone, along with those other culprits, carry out a plan, which was a conspiracy against the President of the United States, creating a narrative that the supporters of that president committed hate crimes against that someone, this is a conspiracy. And it's also a conspiracy to incite racial and political violence against the political opposition, which would be Republicans. Do we have to explain what a conspiracy is to the Illinois Supreme Courts? Conspiracy, a secret plan by an individual or group to do something unlawful or harmful. Conspiracy, the action of plotting or conspiring. Conspiracy, a scheme or ploy for an unlawful or harmful purpose, such as murder, treason, or corruption, especially with a political motivation. But the judge disregarded conspiracy charges because that would result in a stiffer sentence. Ah yes, can't have the pretty boy locked away behind bars for too long, if you catch my drift. Anyhow, let's continue. The Illinois Supreme Court on Thursday overturned the actor Jussie Smollett's conviction on charges that he lied to the police about being the victim of a racist and homophobic attack in 2019. The court ruled that Mr. Smollett had been unjustly prosecuted after he had already reached a deal to resolve the case without jail time. But you see, the courts are corrupt. This fucker shouldn't have been able to negotiate anything. He should have been charged, sentenced, and still be in jail or prison at this very moment. The decision was a stunning reversal in a case that has seen more than 5 years of twists and turns. Mr. Smollett was initially regarded as the victim of an ugly hate crime, drawing widespread sympathy and outrage over an apparent attack on a black and gay actor. But as the Chicago police investigated his report, they grew skeptical of his account, and Mr. Smollett went from victim to suspect, to defendant, and finally to convict when he was found guilty of staging the attack himself and filing a false report. That prompted another wave of outrage. Again, this is a conspiracy. What the hell? It was found that Mr. Smollett staged the attack upon himself and filed a false police report. But dig deeper, he hired individuals disguised as Trump supporters who were the attackers. So this is also a political conspiracy against the President of the United States. If we dig even deeper than that, a conspiracy against the United States has an even stiffer sentence, up to life in prison. A conspiracy against a president is along the lines of plotting to assassinate a president, you see, either by character assassination or literally a physical assassination. Ah, yes, the court's decision to overturn the verdict, which rested on the way the case was prosecuted and not on the underlying facts, may not change many minds in a case that polarized the nation. The facts of the case are the person committed several serious crimes and should have been thrown in prison for it. It doesn't matter how the case was prosecuted, the charges should not be dropped. The judge was supposed to bring the trial back, quote, the legal way, and then Smollett would be charged and sentenced to stiff prison time. But of course, he gets away with a crime and is now celebrated. Mr. Smollett, 42, who has maintained his innocence since the beginning, was sentenced to 5 months in jail in 2022, but only served 6 days of the term before he was released on appeal. How can someone claim to be innocent, with the evidence against them showing they committed the crime? Oh, you know, that's not me in that surveillance talking to the guys I'll have assist in the conspiracy. That's someone else. I'm innocent. You got the wrong person. Since the criminal case against Mr. Smollett was revived, his lawyers have argued that charging him a second time was a violation of his rights. After years of seeing that argument rejected, this Illinois Supreme Court embraced it. Oh, okay, I see. Trump gets reelected, and they let the fucker out to voice his opinion about another Trump presidency. We see the plot. And you see, this shows how corrupt the courts are, that they will allow this person to be released from jail so he can be a political tool for Democrats in a Trump administration. All of a sudden, he's released from jail after Trump gets reelected. But the entire time of old Joe's administration, nobody heard anything about his case. It's all bullshit. And it's bullshit that the charges the second time around violated his rights. It didn't violate his rights because he didn't have any rights, because he was supposed to be imprisoned for his crimes, you see. But this victimization, rooted in race, sexual orientation, celebrity status, and political affiliation, allows Smollett to slither out of trouble with a slap on the wrist. Meanwhile, the person he was essentially conspiring against, being Donald Trump, is still facing potential criminal charges as we speak, which haven't been classified as crimes by law. Anywho, Mr. Smollett was starring in the music industry drama Empire in early 2019 when he first reported that he had been the victim of a hate crime in Chicago and claimed that 2 men had injured him, while yelling racist and homophobic slurs, with one of them shouting, quote, "This is MAGA country," unquote. But law enforcement officials later determined that Mr. Smollett had orchestrated the attack himself and charged him with a crime. Charged him with a crime? Can you elaborate, please? Don't you mean charged him with a crime of conspiracy? You see, conspiracy carries a far greater sentence, especially due to it being politically motivated. But let's just say he was charged with a crime without explaining what that crime was. Oh, okay, that's great reporting. Psych. The prosecutors then agreed to drop the charges against Mr. Smollett in exchange for his agreement to forfeit his $10,000 bond and perform 15 hours of community service. Are you kidding me? Is this how the courts deal with conspiracy? Really, community service? Has this fuckface ever apologized to the very community the judge is ruling him to serve? Negative. The reason someone is sentenced to do community service is because it's about, guess what? Giving back to the community in which you committed crimes within. It's essentially apologizing to the communities for your crimes. Oh my days, this is insanity beyond comprehension. I leave it to my colleagues. I've had enough of this fuckery.
Spoiled, entitled, and classless Hollywood celebrities. Most people have had enough of them already. The American people do not celebrate Smollett as some sort of hero. They treat him like the spoiled, entitled, and classless Hollywood celebrity he is. But let's continue. The case was revived by a special prosecutor, and a jury convicted Mr. Smollett of disorderly conduct for falsely reporting to police that he had been the victim of a bigoted attack. Again, it's not that simple. What they did was minimize the crime, deducing it down to disorderly conduct when it was conspiracy. A political conspiracy against the President of the United States. It would be different if MAGA wasn't involved, which obviously is a representation of Donald Trump politically. But it was involved, and that conspiracy to include Trump in this hoax is a political conspiracy against a president. But what do you expect with corrupt judges? At the trial, the prosecution's key witnesses were two brothers, Abamola Osendero and Olabinjo Osinadero, who testified that Mr. Smollett had asked them to carry out the attack. They said that Mr. Smollett had instructed them in detail, giving them $100 to buy supplies for the attack, including ski masks and a red hat, meant to indicate that the attackers were supporters of President Donald J. Trump. Again, this is a political conspiracy. What else do you need to know in confirming that? But again, this magnifies the corruption with the Supreme Court. They knew Smollett was the mastermind. They knew he got these two individuals to pose as Trump supporters, which they also yelled MAGA country at him in the fake attack. This is a political conspiracy against Trump. And Smollett better be careful, because Trump can actually sue for defamation of character in association to how he was injected into that hoax. Perhaps it doesn't meet the criteria, as it's not directly defamation of Trump character, but he is being attached to a fake incident and misrepresentation, or even defamation of character of those MAGA supporters. Let's continue. Quote, "We are aware that this case has generated significant public interest, and that many people were dissatisfied with the resolution of the original case and believed it to be unjust. Nevertheless, what would be more unjust than the resolution of any one criminal case would be a holding from this court that the state was not bound to honor agreements upon which people have detrimentally relied." Unquote. Nothing but a bunch of legal pseudo-mumbo jumbo. They're trying to paint a picture of Smollett doing something nefarious, like a teenager making a prank call over the intercom at a grocery store. I wasn't that bad. Give him a fine and call it a day. Negative, his little political conspiracy could have led to someone, especially a MAGA supporter, being assaulted in Chicago. What if a MAGA supporter was murdered in Chicago due to this hoax? What if someone who just voiced their support for Trump was beaten down by a group of angry people in relation to this hoax? It could have led to a race war at that very time frame in the country. What about the LGBTQ community? What if they had retaliated against MAGA supporters as well? And this fuckface is holding his fist up in court, as if he was wrongfully convicted and fought for justice? You know what I gather from that? He got away with his political conspiracy, and now he's preparing to be celebrated by the left. This is why Democrats are always being exposed, more so than Republicans, because they just can't stop doing outrageous crap. He's released and everyone wants to interview him, just ignoring the fact that he not only carried out a political conspiracy, but he also made a mockery of race and hate crimes against groups, including the LGBTQ community. But think about it, that hoax was a good thing, because it exposes that racism is an illusion. So we actually appreciate his narcissism and spite toward Trump in creating the hoax. Good job, Smollett. You foolishly gave us more supporting evidence to expose the historical deception. As the saying goes, in every lie, there's truth. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries to enter the political realm. He'll make his rounds on social media platforms. Interviewed by The Breakfast Club, ABC will have another interview. Just another narcissistic dipshit craving attention from the people. And that narcissism has reached such a dysfunctional level with the left that they will cling to anything that feeds their egos, even if it could have resulted in real deaths from their racial hoax. That's unfortunate, but I have a new movie I'd like to talk about. It's about a movie star who committed a crime and got away with it, and was celebrated as a hero. Based on a true story, I might add, premieres in 2025. Everyone should check it out. This is The Chaos Sector.